Hello, good morning. Good morning. I'm learning new things this morning. How are you? It's Jackie Glass, Mama and Navy vet, certified doer, and the Langston legislator for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. What's up? uh, Hold on, let's get it all together here. Instagram is letting me do new things, so I'm gonna do new things. Got uh, a jam packed morning due for you today, right? Go live here. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. We're live. We're live. We're live. I was panicking this morning because I try not to let perfection get in the way of progress, y'all. And I tell people this all the time. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. But then I turns around and I let perfection get in the way of progress. I was looking for something this morning and I just was getting real upset with myself because I couldn't find what I was looking for. And the reality is I didn't need it. I didn't need it, but I felt better having it. So I'm going to do it. I said, oh, I had having, and it was just like, all right, you know what? I got up this morning. As soon as I finish this, I'm going to run out the door to get some lunch for my daughter because she got her regionals track meet today. So I said, girl, like, let me be great. Let me be great this morning. Can I just be a little great this morning? But at any rate, I'm long morning due this morning, really trying to tap into what is on the hearts and minds, at least of the people that I've been talking to recently. And I understand how difficult and challenging it is right now. But I want to walk through some homework because what I feel like it's really hard to hold in hands what needs to happen while taking in all the things and your pocketbook is stressed. I'm saying all the things that are happening to me. Like, look, year to date, all my bills are up over $1,000. Actually, it's over $1,500 year to date. So like I say that from a place of like I have competing interest all the time. And just by nature of me having my little citizens too, that is another competing interest. While like I don't want them to feel like a competing interest. And then my mom and all these different things. And I got a spouse and I got 2 dogs and a cat. And then I got to deal with me and all my personalities. I get it. I say that from the place of like, yo, I get it. It's a whole lot and nobody wants to stay in anxiety mode. That's why the morning dew is so important for you. It's important for me. We're going to give ourselves these little things that we need to do to make that big difference. And I'm saying this too, because in my office, when I get an email from 5 people about something, that's a big deal, right? There's a movement that needs to happen. And I believe, the state of our union is going to be dependent upon the union of our states. And that's why we got to get back down to us, to our own backyard and good stuff and things. I'm going to say good morning to everybody. Say good morning, and then I'm going to roll into it. Good morning to Ray Biz. I appreciate you always being here. She said good morning to everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Little. So good to see you. Good morning, Sierra. I love you. Mean it. Shall Trendsetter. Okay, Shall Trendsetter. To be a trendsetter. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's get into it, y'all. So this morning I thought about what question is like pressing people right now, people that believe that maybe are a little stifled by the times that we're in right now. And I think the most pressing question for me, and you can tell me what I would love to hear. I would love for you to drop in the comments. And in a big scheme of things, it could be, doesn't matter how big or small it is. What's the most pressing question that you have right now for yourself, for your country, for your community, for your mama, for your child? Like, what's the most pressing thing in front of you as a state level legislator, right? In that role, when I wear that hat, the biggest question that I'm asking myself right now is, how do we defend voting rights? How do we keep people safe? How do we protect institutions? How do we make sure that democracy feels like it's worth participating in before distrust becomes the organizing principle of our lives, right? Like we're organizing based off distrust. Am I in a place where you can still believe in? So drop in the comments, what's your most pressing question? Drop the question that's burning in your mind, and maybe at the end I can like walk through some of these questions, and if you have to leave and go to work by that time, then you'll know to scroll to the end scroll to the end as we answer your questions. So this is the morning dew. It is not the morning doom. It is not the morning scroll. It is not the morning somebody ought to do something. It is the morning dew, and that somebody is us. That is you and me. And I want to start with that question that is sitting heavy. It is on my spirit. It is in my inbox, in the group chats. Every civically I go to, there's somebody's asking me, can we protect the rules of democracy while still persuading people that it actually works? How do we do that? And that tension, y'all, is real. And I don't know if you felt it. You can tell me, like, yeah, I feel that tension. I feel that tension. And it's not just like a did you vote thing. I think we're beyond that. Voting is no longer a minimum at this point. Or are you registered, or do you know who your senator is? Like, past those things, they matter. Please don't hear that I'm saying that those things don't matter. Being registered to vote, knowing who your people are, they do. That bigger question that I talked about, the core question, it's that defense. It's you and your safety. It's these institutions. I just don't want distrust to become what we have to argue, organize over. Yes, and it's an idea of like, before distrust becomes the organizing principle for me. Like in that world, we're losing, because distrust is really efficient. It is good at what it does. Distrust does not need a meeting anywhere. It does not need childcare. It don't need a ride to the polls. It doesn't even need a source. Distrust shows up and says, see, I told you it was all broken. And that may be your sentiment. That may be how you're feeling right now. Like, I told you so. I told you. And if we do not give people something real to do, and I'm saying this to you too, I'm using we as in doers, us, if we don't give people something to do, they can feel like something that they can measure, something that they can hold in our hands, that they can hold their elected officials accountable for, then hopelessness will do the organizing for us of people. And I'm not interested in losing people. I'm not interested in losing people to hopelessness at all. So I'm going to say today is about hope having homework. Do you understand? Because I'm holding on. Hope is not a plan, but hope does have homework. Okay, that can we say it together? Hope has homework. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I do need to give you a friendly reminder from the delegate from Norfolk, Navy veteran mom, all that good stuff. I want to tell you, as I talk through this, I want you to be in the habit of checking your sources, right? When we're sharing information, I'm keep pinging this because we are in a country where propaganda is supported by the First Amendment, right? Propaganda is what gets the game fucked up. And so propaganda is real. Check your sources. Don't just take my word for it. I love you to ask I love you all too much to ask you to operate just off my vibes, right? I appreciate you too much just to ask you to operate off of my goodwill. I want you to have it for yourself. We are not these. I get it all the time. People that's just screenshotting stuff and showing it to me, or just forwarding stuff that are rumors. No. We are going to use quality sources, primary sources. That means court opinions. That means let's get some work done, right? Court opinions. That means state code. That means official election website. That means legislative records. Then we can look at credible research. And that is places like the Brennan Center, Harvard Institute of Politics, UC San Diego Center of Transparent and Trusted Elections. Princeton has this thing called Bridging Divides Initiatives. When we look at journalism right now, which again, I'm with you, the heavy level of distrust is real because you just don't know what you're getting, right? When we look at journalism right now, we have to ask who is reporting it, what are they sourcing, what is fact, what is analyst, what is opinion, because civic education on whole, it's not just knowing what's happening, it's also knowing how you know what happened. All right, I need you to keep that in mind. With that, mark your calendars for August 8th, save the date. August 8th, we're going to do summer school for it's back to school because summer will kind of be over. Summer school or back to school for certified doers. We are securing a venue, lock it in. It's a day-long sort of workshop of learning process, finding your people, and a policy pitch contest. All of that comes together for you to be a part of. I want you to be a part of that. Now I'm going to go to the chat real quick and say what's on people's mind. Oh, I see David James Glass says, can a veto bill be brought back up or a new similar bill be put in consideration during the current budget special session? Unfortunately, no. Our budget special session has specific guidelines on what we can do. And when we're in a special session for a budget, the only things that we can do are things associated with the budget. Now, can there be a different special session called for other things? Yes, I doubt that happens. We're now in a place where if a bill was vetoed, and I'm assuming probably marijuana bill is what you're thinking about, then there's the work that has to be done to bring something back in 2028. I understand the disappointment from folks about this. It's something I've been at a civic league every day this week except for yesterday, and I would have been at one yesterday, but they canceled. And surveillance and marijuana came up at every single civic league, and education came up, specifically special education came up. All right, I'm going on the other side here. Sierra says, I have days feeling disappointed, but I refuse to give up. And I appreciate that. Like, that is the thing. Sierra said, I was just about to ask about summer school. Yeah. Save the date. Summer school is going to be August 8th, right? August 8th. Put that in the front of your mind. All right. Now, with those things in mind, I do want to invite you guys to our book club called we're reading Grab 'em by the Ear, and ear is spelled EARR from the Existentialist Republic. Yes, I said ear because the framework is educate, activate, recruit, repeat. And so the official sort of listing, it describes the cycle of being able to educate yourself enough to know how to engage. That's the thing, how to activate by showing up, how to stay on message, how to recruit other people to actions, and how to repeat with that intensity, with that frequency, with that duration. If you go to the link tree on my bio, actually, I should have dropped the link tree instead of my website in there. But if you go to the link tree, it's Linktree/Jackie for Norfolk, Linktree/Jackie for Norfolk. If you go there, you can download the book. The book is available by donation or for free, whatever. So the whole sermon of this book is educate, activate, recruit, repeat. And our principles are educate, advocate, celebrate, legislate. This book for me, because there's other stuff I want to get y'all involved in. Right? There's other things that I want to put y'all in the know in. There's some next steps, but I need you to understand this part of getting people to freaking move. Y'all don't know how powerful you are. People don't know how powerful they are. I'm just telling you, y'all can move mountains. So this book is like civic cardio. And some of us here are already out here trying to sort of sprint this marathon with no training, with no plan. There are people out there. So no ma'am, no sir, no friend, no cousin. We are going to train. We are going to read. We're going to source. We're going to ask better questions. We are going to make better demands. And most importantly, we're going to hold people accountable without losing our own minds in the process. It is a 25-page book by which 2 pages are resources and 1 page is like about the author. So it's about 21 pages thereabouts, right? The point here is not to become louder. The point is to become harder to ignore. Fair enough. right? That's the goal. So go to my link tree. It's linktree /Jackie for Norfolk. Actually, I'm going to drop it in the chat. I wish I had put it as my website. I put my own website in there, and I should have put this link in there for you. What I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat. If I was smart, my link tree. I'm going to copy that there. Boom, boom. We're putting it in the places, right? On all the places, we're gonna just go ahead and put it in there. I wish I would have on Instagram used that but my link tree is out there for you to use to do what it is you do. Got it? Got it. All right. So I have 5 democracy questions that I want to go through today. You can get your notepad out. You can come back to this later. But these are the, like I said, the big questions that I feel like I have on my mind, and I'm gonna put the questions up there as I go along, which I should have been done. But I'm going to put the questions up there as I go along, right? Okay, so my first question. Okay, who gets to draw the map and who gets drawn out of power? We did a little bit of this before. I want to start with voting rights because this is the thing. This is the pressing thing. I can tell you it's heavy on my mind just by knowing what's happened. So now I know when they heard redistricting, people immediately thought, oh Lord, like, here we go with the maps. I need y'all to understand why this is bigger than just the maps. And I get it. The maps sound boring, but these maps are not the ones that are boring. These are the maps that decide who gets heard. They decide whether your community stays whole or gets split, like a church, the plates you get at the fish fry, plates you get at the fish fry. They decide whether or not a community has enough voting power to choose someone who actually understands them, or whether a community gets packed. Remember that? Packed, cracked, scattered, diluted, and then told, well, you should have organized better. And that is not it. Sometimes people are really organized and the map is a problem. We saw it with in Memphis. Memphis was one district. Now Memphis is like cut up into a bunch of different districts. So here is the current event on that. April 29th, I'm sure y'all heard it in the news, 2026, this year, April 29th, the U.S. Supreme Court decided in Louisiana versus, I always say this wrong, Calais, the case that involved Louisiana congressional maps and whether or not those maps, whether the maps with a second majority Black district was unconstitutional for racial gerrymandering. So the court, they went ahead and upheld the court. What they did was they held that the Voting Rights Act did not require Louisiana to create additional minority district, and therefore the map was unconstitutional. I want to say that a little bit slowly because I heard myself say it and it didn't sound like understandable enough. So the lower court, y'all, had previously found that Louisiana's early map likely violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act because it did not include an additional majority Black district. The state then drew a map with said district. That new map then got challenged as racial gerrymandering. The Supreme Court said that the Voting Rights Act, federal level, did not require that second district. Okay, so it's not simply like this. It's not like just a legal ping pong. It is people's representation moving back and forth through the courts, right? Back and forth through legislators, back and forth through deadlines. And so right after that, Louisiana state senators passed a new U.S. House map that would entirely eliminate a majority Black district after the Supreme Court struck that prior map down. I looked at AP. AP had reported that the new map could benefit Republicans by giving them another House seat. That's why Louisiana matters to us, okay? Fair enough. You following me? And remember, put your questions, comments in the chat because we're rolling through. Okay, and that's where I want the doers to breathe and not glaze over. Don't glaze over on me on this, okay? Breathe. Because the question is not, Do you understand every footnote in the Supreme Court opinion? That's not what I'm asking you to do here. That's not what you need to do. The question is, do you understand that when voting protections get weaker, the fight, it moves even closer to us? It moves even closer to Virginia State House, even closer to our city council, the registrar's office, that's who handles our elections, the school board districts, whether whether the notice was posted in plain language or something you could not understand, whatever that notice is, and whether your grandma even knows where her polling, that her polling place was changed. That is why state protections matter for us. So I want to bring it home to Virginia, right? Let's bring it home into Virginia, because that's happening in Louisiana, and we have overstood how the federal government can affect our daily lives just by what's been happening recently, right? Can we lock in with that? Good morning, y'all. Good morning. So let's bring it home to Virginia. In 2021, Delegate Marcia, if some of you may know her, Cia Price introduced a bill 1890, House Bill 1890, the Voting Rights Act of Virginia. The official legislative summary for this bill on LIS, remember I said we cite sources, Legislative Information System, the official bill summary prohibited voting rules or practices that would deny or abridge the right to color-based, color, race, or membership in language minority groups. So it required public notice and public comment before certain covered local voting changes happen. And it created this civil clause for action, meaning a clause where people could sue. And it supported the voter education and outreach fund to making sure that we are actually telling you all what's going on and educating you all on what's going on. That happened in 2021. And the Code of Virginia now says that no voting qualification, prerequisite, standard, practice, or procedure can impose in any way that results in denial or abridgment of the right to vote based on race, color, or membership of any language minority group. Okay, that is being a democracy architecture. She took the Voting Rights Act and made sure no matter what the federal government decides to fucking do, Virginia has protections. So there is a difference, Doers, between appreciating what democracy is and actually trying to be a part of an architect. And this is not symbolism. This is actual support. This is saying we stand on the rules of democracy. That's what she did. So Virginia law requires language access to be covered in localities. Meaning that the voting materials have to be provided in an applicable minority language as well as English. So if we got Spanish speakers, then Virginia law says you gotta have a Spanish education, right? You gotta have it in the language. If it's Mandarin, if it's Tagalog, whatever it is, for certain cover and also for certain covered practices like changing the way that we're voting, right? Because we want to go to ranked choice voting. Look at that, right? Changing district boundaries, interpretation access, or reducing a polling location places, localities. That means your city, your county, your city, or your town has to publish that notice, has to accept public comment and hold a public hearing and provide, waiting period for challenges. I know that is a mouthful, but I want to say that is a mouthful. So let me say that a little bit clearer. Like regular. Okay. If they're going to change the doorway to your democracy, to your polling place, people deserve to be put on notice and not locked out. Okay. So this is a notice before you get locked out. That means they cannot do things under the bed of dark. Notice before they try to lock you out. This has happened in Virginia. And this is not something that the reason why I'm contextually going through these 5 questions is because if we can get a better hold of history. I'm a student of history. I can't hold it all in my brain, so I'll be trying to recall historical things. And I'm like, I remember there's something somewhere, which is why I prep better for the morning news. But this is something that has a rippling effect, and you can see it in other places. like in Chile in 1988, Chile, right down in South America, the country held a sort of plebiscite. It's their version of elections on whether Augusto, I don't know how to say his name, Pinochet would remain in power, right? The ballot had two options, yes or no. Yes or no. The official Chilean National Archive, you hear me? The official Chilean National Archive explains that if no one, Pinochet would not be approved for another presidential term, and there would follow. The no side won by 54.7%. This happened in 1988, and thousands, look it up, thousands of Chileans celebrated in the street, right? Like 1,000. And the lesson there is that the people, they had to organize around a simple democratic demand. And again, I said earlier, just talking about myself, they didn't let perfect get in the way of progress. They didn't let the media, they didn't let the institutions or safety, quite frankly, to be perfect. They demanded and said no to authoritarian rule. I need y'all to look that up. That's just in 1988. Like, we cannot pretend that the public does not have power. You do. We have to say no to surrendering the future because the machine looks intimidating, because they use the process available to them. They organize. They made sure that it matters. So your go-do before Monday, right? Be on voting rights and maps Monday. Before Monday, here's what I'm asking you to do. If this is your thing, we got 5 questions that I'm throwing out there, okay? 5. Your go-to before Monday is find a state election website. Find your state election website, because I know some of y'all are not here in Virginia, and your local registrar or election board. Just find out. Don't wait for an election. Just do it now. Find what, if you're 15 and you can help your parent, your auntie, your cousin, if you're 85, you can actually call your registrar and ask them to mail you information, right? Or ask a teenager to help you get the mailing in. Like these kids know how to use printers and stuff. So especially when they got to do sneaker returns. Then, right, find out what does your state election website look like? Who is your local registrar or election board? That might be your neighbor. I want you to ask elected official, whether it's state, local, or whatever. And I'm gonna put the question, because I put it down here. Control C. Ask one elected official. Control C. Here we go. V. Yeah, before I even say it, because I just want everybody to be with me on this. Ask one election official what protections are in place in our state to prevent voting delusion, polling places without meaningful change, cross-cultural access, and discriminatory elections. If those protections are not in place, what bill or policy will you create to do them? Here's the deal in Virginia. We already got it, but it ain't no harm. It ain't no harm in asking your legislator to make sure that they know. Because if we make an assumption that they just know, we are lying to ourselves, because that is not the case. So you want to answer, right? That's hope. Hope has homework. Hope has homework. Can we say that? Hope has homework. Hope is not a plan, but it does have homework. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay. The second question, which I'm about to put out there for you. All right. Okay. So who runs the election when politics tries to run the election, run through the election office, right? Like, I'd say that again. Who runs the election when politics tries to run through the election office? That second question is about election and administration. As you know, I sit on the Committee for Privileges and Elections, and I'm not seeing questions. So if I see any questions, drop your questions, your comments in the chat box. So that I can, so that I can answer them along the way, on topic. I'll get to the things that are off topic in a bit. But I am the subcommittee chair for elections administration for the Commonwealth of Virginia, right? The woman that I talked about earlier, the delegate, the elected official, Delegate Marcia Cia Price, she's the chair of that committee, and she's the one who brought that 2021 legislation. But I sit at the subcommittee for election administration. Understanding that democracy is not just election day. Like, it's paper, it's training, it's machines, it's the password, it's like chain of custody. There's all these things. It's the poll workers. And if you have not thought about it, considered it, signing up to be a poll worker, coming up this next election in November, coming up these primaries, like, the poll workers are aging out, y'all. The old folks after COVID, our elders, a lot of them did not come back to do this work. A lot of them could not come back. And that's fair. So we do need poll workers. That's why when you call your registrar, you're going to be like, I'm interested in being a poll worker, or me and my friend want to work the polls together one day. But I'll tell you, as someone who's been around government, I don't want to say long enough, but for a little bit, the people who keep democracy standing are often not the people with the microphones. It's not me and this morning dew. Like, it is the clerks, it is the registrars, it is the election officers, the staff that are answering the same questions 73 goddamn times with grace. They should, that they with the grace that they actually expense. That is important, because currently the Brennan Center, which, again, if you've not heard of the Brennan Center for Justice, put that on your list of resources. Remember, we said we're citing our sources. We're not just playing. You cannot let my word just be the bond. I want you to know for yourself. So the Brennan Center, last month, or this month, we're in May right now, they did a voting laws roundup that said that in 2025, at least 16 states enacted 31 restrictive voting laws, and at least 486 restrictive bills were considered in 47 states. It also said that at least seven states, y'all, enacted 8 election interference laws. And all 8 will be in effect in the 2026 midterm. So I'll translate that mouthful, is that there are regular voting laws, like the deadlines and the procedures. And then there are laws that do something even more dangerous. They create sort of openings for partisan interference, or they threaten people and processes that make sort of the election works. And so when people hear election interference, they think about somebody that is hacking a machine in a movie like The Green, like hacking. But interference can also be much less dramatic, but even more effective. It can be the state deciding that they're going to underfund the election. It could be the harassment of poll workers or folks coming into the poll, or intimidation. It can be just like muddying the waters and making confusing rules. Or even it can be those partisan folks, partisan acts of power over the actual process that should be professional, transparent, and accountable. So that Brennan Center, they also put out a survey of local election officials, and found that 75% of local elected officials had not received additional resources from their state or their locality to address the federal cuts in election security for services. So while at least 71% had done some preparation or planning for scenarios, that could also disrupt election administration. 75%. So in plain English, we are running elections, and the people that are running elections are preparing for disruption, but many don't have the resources they need to even address the issue. Okay, this is about being readiness, and I love readiness framework. This is what we do in the military, or we used to do before PHEDSEC. Readiness was the thing. Election readiness is democracy readiness. Okay, those are the one and the same. Those are one and the same. And understanding how those two things sort of fit together make a lot of sense. Again, for historical context, because again, the way I want to do this here is we're going to have a current event, we're going to have an understanding, and we're going to understand historically how people have been the power. I need y'all to understand that in Siberia, into the year 2000, It's Slobodan. I think it's Slobodan. And I'm not even going to try his last name. Tried to hold on to power after an election. Sound familiar? He tried to hold on to power. The International Center on Nonviolent Conflict describes how a student-led movement, it was called Optpor, OTPOR, Optpor, helped shape this broad civil resistance campaign. And after that regime, the Slobodan regime refused to accept the opposition's victory. Strikes and mass mobilization followed right after that, and he eventually had to concede after the Constitutional Court reversed course and declared the opposition the winner. They were ready for the fight, and we do not need to romanticize that. That was not clean. It was not easy, but we have to also understand that democracy story is worth telling. Like it's worth telling. The lesson here, y'all need y'all to understand historical context, because it's not like the reason why I don't panic, because again, being a student of history will help you understand we've seen this shit before, and every rip, it has been the people who has made sure the change. When elections administration becomes contested, people need to organize before the crisis, not panic after it. I'm saying this out loud. People need to organize before the crisis. Do not panic. We need trusted sources. We need networks. We need labor, lawyers, witnesses. We need people who know the difference between a rumor and a receipt, right? Like, you got to know the difference between somebody just saying some stuff popping off at the mouth and what actually was. Okay. I want to underscore by saying this. A friend of mine, we were talking about this, and I was trying to figure out what we're going to talk about for the morning dew. And it was like, the election's coming up. Like, this is a big deal. What we do know is that many of the southern states of these United States would not pass the UN test for fair elections. Maybe free. It's called fair and free elections. They would not even pass the standard for what would be called fair elections. Free, people can vote, but not fair elections. Right? That's globally in the South. Here in these United States, we failed the benchmark. Not in Virginia. And I know Virginia is in the South, but the majority of the southern states fail that. She told me that, and I was like, golly, I need to go look at that UN report. But before I go do that, I'm going to tell you what we got to do before Monday. Go do before Monday on election administration. If this is your thing. Before Monday, I want you to call or email your local election office with 2 very respectful questions, right? Very respectful questions. Here we go. 2 very respectful questions that are currently in the chat, right? Very respectful questions in the chat, okay? It says, why does it feel like voter ID is being used against Dems? But we already got voter ID in Virginia. Can you really vote in other states without an ID? I believe there are some states that have different voting ID requirements. I just don't have that offhand. I don't have it offhand. Coming back to trying to make sure that I keep all my stuff together. Okay, you're going to call with these 2 questions. What do you need the public to know before the next election? And are there public meetings, training, or volunteer opportunities, or election officer applications we should be aware of? That's it. You got to yell at them. You know, no conspiracy theory. Just, like, call them. Call them like they're public service, doing the hard work in a hard moment, because they are doing the hard work in the hard moment. You can call your state folks, right? And this is an important question. I'm going to put this question out there too. Call your state representatives. Yup, go Doers, because that's what we do, Doers. Like, we're going to quit coming here and just letting Jackie be a talking head. We got stuff to do. All right. That's for your register, right? Then you're going to call your elected official and ask, are you supporting, funding, staffing, cybersecurity support, safety, physical safety protections, training for local election poll workers? Like, get them on the record. Not, like, we're not just being like, do you love democracy? Yes or no? Check the box here. Nah. We need them to have a budget line. We need them to have a bill number. We need them to have a timeline and public comment. That is winning, right? And winning ain't wishing they would have, right? Winning is the alignment that we need. Okay? Winning is the alignment that we need. But in order to do all of that, y'all, and I'm almost done and we'll get through the last couple questions here. But in order to do that, we have to build trust. Trust is a minimum. I mean, like, trust is something that can make or break how we move from here. Can people, that's the next question. Can people trust a system they believe cannot hear them? That is such a fair question. Do you understand? Because I need us to be honest about what we're feeling. A lot of people, at least that is in my circle, are looking at the federal government right now and thinking, is anything even happening up there? I mean, like I don't mean like in a partisan way. I mean in a very human way. Like, is there anything even happen up there? Because we are seeing doers, we are seeing court decisions, we are seeing these bills that are introduced that don't become like actually lived protections. Their threats are rising, prices are rising. We see leaders fighting over a process where families are just trying to like survive week by week, and that's not a game. And so when people ask me, does the system even hear me, or does it even, does it just I don't want to say harvest your attention, but does it just come knocking at my door for attention every 2 years? And quite frankly, that is a fair question. That is so fair. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2025 was introduced in Congress to amend the Voting Rights Act and to revise that criteria for which states and subdivisions would be subject to like pre-clearance of their provisions. So it was introduced. It's had a press conference. It was real protections. And people feel that gap. However, right, I'm losing my train of thought because I got angry. I got angry just thinking about that helplessness of like, what the F is happening? What is actually happening, right? But okay, so people can feel that gap. I can feel it. UC San Diego Center for Transparency, remember, good sources. I'm going to tell you my sources. You need to make sure you already tell people yours. Has this trusted and transparency election report that they put out in February. And only 60% of respondents said that they were confident votes would be counted accurately nationwide in the 2026 mid-term elections. That is down from 77% after the 2024 presidential election. That declined across party lines. They even Harvard took a look at the young people and found that young Americans, after tense economic pressure, and because it's economically challenging right now, they are increasingly losing faith in the political system. Half of them feel like, half of them said that they have no real say in the government, and like only 15% said they trust the trust in the federal government dropped to like 15%. That is a warning light, y'all. That should be a warning light for the future when young people, they feel like they have no agency. That is not them being lazy. I'm going to say that out loud to everyone. The young people feeling like they don't have agency, that is not laziness. That's not that is a system sort of feedback report that we should be listening to. And we can either take that report and read it, or we can just keep yelling, vote harder at people who are asking whether their vote is being treated like a suggestion. Like, they're telling us, right? They have no agency. So what doers need to know at every level, need to know what government does. I mean, what am I saying? what I'm trying to say is that people need to know what level of government does what. They need to know what the state does, what the locality does, what the federal government does, because some people are big mad at the president for something that the city council has control over. Some people are big mad at the governor for something that Congress controls, mad at the school board for something that the state budget did, mad at everybody. And honestly, sometimes I understand the efficiency of that. I understand, but power has an address. Every issue has an address. Being able to address it in the right place, and I will continue to say this, it's not that you're barking, it's that you're barking up the right tree. I want to take a look at this historically, right? Making sure that folks understand that they're barking up the right tree, because hope has homework. Hope is not a plan, but it has homework. And that's what we're doing. Historical context here. The Philippines in 86, trying to stay as recent in history as possible, y'all. Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos gathered to protest Ferdinand Marcos and his claim that he won the re-election over Corazon. I think it's Aquino. Again, somebody claiming they won the election. Ohio State's Origin Project knows that Marcos and his family were forcibly they were forcibly the Philippines. The People Power Revolution, that's what they were called. The People Power Revolution inspired an anti-authoritarian activist around the world. Britannica even said that the People Power movement, it has broadly, as a broadly popular, like bloodless uprising that led to Marcos out. He got ousted, he got exiled, and restored democratic government to the Philippines. Okay, again, we're not going to let perfection get in the way of the progress. No country wins democracy once it gets once and then gets put on it. We're not just going to get it put on a shelf. This is maintenance, y'all. People who have been told that their power is too big, too entrenched, too dangerous, rigged, organized anyway. They organized anyway. They did not just organize around anger. They organize about the legitimacy. So the go do before Monday, I think you need to understand that power has an address card. Power has address. 4 lines. Is that how long an address is? Name, could be 4. 4 lines. If you have time, right, before Monday, my city council member or local governing body contact, my state delegate, my state senator or representative, my state delegate or representative or senator, the member of Congress in the U.S., my local election office. If you are, again, 15, I will need you to create this card. This card is going to create a power has address card, and I'm putting it on here. Like, you will know who these people are. You will know what they are responsible for. You will know how to get in contact with them. And you're going to show everybody how to do it, because it's not just barking. It's about barking up the right tree. Barking up the right tree. And I love that Marcelo says exactly, very objective questions, clear language here. We have to be very clear with folks. We're not trying to give nobody the okie doke. We're trying to make sure they're doing their damn job. And not even just doing their job, but holding space to where you can ask questions. Okay, so I want you to pick an issue, get the address, pick an issue. And maybe it's an email address. Writing is effective too, because people don't expect that nowadays. Like, they don't expect to get things in the mail from folks. Write them one message. I'm a constituent. I'm trying to understand what level of government I'm going to put this in the chat, because I know how we do, y'all. I don't want y'all saying, Jackie, what was that thing you said? And I know I need to make a post about it, but I understand, like, I'm still looking for somebody to manage all of my daggum social. So I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody to see here. I want you to write them. I'm a constituent. I'm trying to understand what level of government is responsible for whatever this issue is. Can your office tell me what you do? What you can do, what you cannot do, and who else I should contact, right? This is an exercise of civic muscle. It's not the glamorous work. It's not a viral moment. Like, I know that people be looking for their viral moment, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do the things that work. I do not want to confuse confusion to protect people having misuse of power, right? Clarity is what puts pressure on power. You understand? Clarity is the thing that puts pressure on power. We are almost down to our last question here, guys. Like, it is that thing. And I need you to understand that. I need you to know that you are powerful. And I'm not saying it just to be like, yeah, you're powerful. No, these are the things, right? These are the things. The fourth question that I have for us is, it's like, how do we keep people safe enough to participate? You know, the thing about democracy is not only the access that we have to the ballot, it's also whether or not people feel like they're safe. Or do you feel safe enough to use your voice? That's real. Do you feel safe enough to run for office or work the polls? I'm asking y'all, like, hey, when you work, do you feel safe doing that? To attend a school board meeting, to even put a freaking sign in your yard, right? Do you feel safe enough to even just dissent, to disagree without wondering whether or not somebody's going to show up to your house? I just saw a thing the other day. A lady had a disagreement on Facebook, walked up to the people's house and shot in the house. Like, I've looked at, Princeton did this thing called Princeton's Bridging Divides Initiative. I think I'm saying that right. They did that, I want to say last year. And that information identified that there is a rising in political violence, which we all see and heard heading into the 2026. We have seen this, we have heard this, we have felt this. I know legislators that are acquainted with legislators in Minnesota or in Florida that like have felt it very really in their own backyards. It also reported that targeted violence grew more than 30% between 2024 and 2025, and that the threats that they have, that people have seen for threats and harassment, have spiked after those high profile attacks on the Capitol. You remember that? the attack on the Capitol. They have those threats have rose almost 60. I think it was like 58% against members of Congress. That's not normal. That is not normal. It feels corrosive. Plainly, I think, as plain as I can say it, we do not answer political violence with political violence. We doers don't answer intimidation with intimidation. I realized we just went through a fight where it's like, we had to choose violence proverbially. Yes. But we don't threaten, we don't harass or dox people or show up at people's private homes or have some level of delusion between what is being courageously speaking out of something versus being really super freaking reckless. We need to be disciplined. And collaborative effort, it's not, how do I want to say this? Being collaborative is not soft. That is the discipline part. And safety is not the opposite of courage. We shouldn't be negotiating that thing. I feel like safety is what will allow our courage to last, right? Like if we can put ourselves when we're in a space where we feel like we can do the things and be safe, then safety will allow us to continue doing the work, allow us to last. Contextually, let me tell you where we've seen that, right? Like in South Korea, December 2024, right? The president there, Yoon, I don't want to mess people's names up. The president of South Korea declared martial law, right? 2024, okay, December. The National Assembly, they invalidated the order to the order, voted to their assembly, their National Assembly, essentially their federal government. They invalidated that order of martial law. They voted to impeach him, and South Korea, they have a constitutional court, unanimously upheld the impeachment of him in April of 2025 and removed him from office. Right? That is a modern example of institutions, lawmakers, courts, and public pressure all being the hero, right? The system was under pressure. It was at risk, But people did not just stay at home and say somebody's going to handle it. Like, they had lawmakers that showed up, and I know how that feels in this moment, but I'm telling you it is possible. They had the court that acted. I know that it feels like they've captured the courts, but I'm telling you there's action. But the public was there. What authoritarian behavior wants is isolation. And I think I've said this way back when, right? It wants isolation. It wants you to say, I'm not watching. I'm closing my eyes. I'm not watching. It wants you alone. It wants you scared. It wants you convinced that no one else sees what you see. Democracy requires witnesses. Do you hear me? It requires, let you and I be a witness. So our go-dos before Monday, right? Our before Monday due. This is about safety. Before Monday, do one safety-centered democracy actions. I'm not asking for something dramatic, just something useful. Maybe send a note to your election office saying, gratitude for the work that you're doing. Please let the public know that we support you. We need you to keep voters, election workers, and the staff safe. Ask your local governing body, whether that's a town council, city council, or your state legislator, representative, or state senator. Again, what protections against intimidation of election workers, doxing, treatments, threats at public meetings or polling places? What are the protections? What gaps remain? What are you going to do to support them? Right? Ask those questions. Ask those questions. As as Layla said on here, we fight intimidation with bravery, courage, and action, right? But we hold these folks accountable. I'm dropping this in the chat. I know that this is a lot of work, y'all, but this is where we're at in life. Like, I'm not going to keep panicking, because I don't think that we need to be panicking. I think we need to understand how history has been said and what we need to do. And, Marcelo's trying to read it before I drop my stuff in. What does he say here? Putting a bunch of officials in an email chain so they can see who is or isn't responding is something I've had success with. A little tacky maybe, but the next steps to get in the local news. Go, Andy. I know that's right. Right? Do you see? And I love to have people come on here and share their successes. Like, that's important. Marcelo says, yes, controlling the narrative means giving a viable platform. Giving a viable platform to the usually quiet voices of reason. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with that. 1000%. Those are the voices that we need. Again, I'm saying it doesn't matter if you're a teen, you can help write the email. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned citizen, you can make that phone call that starts with, baby, write this down. We know that tone that is past legislation from someone's kitchen. And for all of us, do not share unverified threats. Don't share unverified. So do not panic. Don't share unverified. If something is dangerous, report it to the appropriate authorities. If something is suspicious, verify before you spread it. If something you feel like is designed to make people feel afraid to participate, I'm going to say this again. If there is something that you feel is designed to make people afraid to participate, ask who benefits from that fear. Right? We are not spreaders of chaos. Okay. We want to build our civic infrastructure. Is that fair? I think that's fair. I believe that's fair, especially coming up here in 2026. I'm telling y'all, this next election, it's not a small thing. I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm looking at what the writing is on the wall. I'm looking at what has been happening. I'm looking at what new age election interference looks like. We have to be vigilant. We have to be planning before crisis. We have to be planning before crisis, which is why the fifth and final question that I feel like we need to be asking is what can states do when the federal government is slow, is stuck, or insufficient? And I want this to sit here for a second with y'all, for real. What can states do, right? What can we do? Because I also recognize the feeling of looking at the federal government and thinking, like, y'all gonna do something? Again, are we just watching a house smoke? I understand that feeling. I get that sentiment, but I need us to be careful. What hopelessness loves is to be sort of dressed up in sophistication, right? Hopelessness will tell you that nothing matters, right? Nothing matters. And that sounds like it's deep, but it ain't that deep. We need to not be beat up with a thesaurus, right? With words. The truth is that when the federal government, when federal protections, when they weaken or they stall or state that when that happens, the state protections start to matter even more. The budgets within our state start to really be a core value. Our public notice becomes a thing. Worker protections, language access, disability access, civic education, all of that starts to matter more. And this is where Virginia has something to teach. You, if you're living in Virginia, and I know everybody on here doesn't live in Virginia, but if you live in Virginia, that's where we can start teaching. That Voter Rights Act that was enacted by Delegate that was brought forth and led by Delegate Marcia Price in 2021, that Voter Rights Act of Virginia, it did not wait for the federal government to become perfect. That is 5 years ago this happened. We didn't wait. We see the writing on the walls. We didn't wait for it to become public. We created state level protections against voter denial, delusion, people being discriminated against because of language. We eliminated those language access failures, certain at-large systems that dilute the protected class voting strength, and we covered practices that could reduce access or representation. It is in the Virginia law. I can drop the link here if you want. That is what I mean by statecraft, right? We're not just doing slogans or vibes. We're talking about actual structures after vehicles, not somebody did, but we did it. And if you're in another state, your question is, where is your state level voting rights backstop? Where is it? Because we're losing it. Section 2, Section 5, we are in some areas we are already losing, but there are some places where we have to win. I'm remembering that the state of our union is determined by the union of our states. And where are you? Where y'all at on it? If you don't have one, be asking why not. If you have one, is it funded? Is it enforced? Is it enforced? And then who knows how to use it? Because this work that we're doing, Doers, this work, a right person, what am I trying to say? Because a right person do not know, because if the right person does not know how to use it, then it's just sitting somewhere in a drawer. Like it's nothing. And again, for historical context, because again, we're not doing anything. We're going to take our current events, we're going to take historical context, and we're going to put some stank on what we need to do, right? What we talked about early, Chile teaches us that simple democratic demand can organize a whole goddamn country, right? Remember I talked about Chile. The Philippines, what we just talked about, it teaches us that people can withdraw legitimacy from a false claim of victory. The people can do that. Siberia, if you know about Siberia, it teaches us that an election defense requires organization, labor, legal pressure, and mass participation. And even in South Korea, the example we just used, it tells us that intimidation can still work when people insist they work. But none of those examples say, relax, somebody else is going to fix it. It says the opposite. Again, we cannot wait for crisis to start organizing ourselves. This is why you need to read this book, Grab Them by the Ear. It is in my link tree, and I put my link tree in the comments. Grab Them by the Ear is where we start. If you want to be in the book club, this is 25 pages, 25 phases to get you right. Right? You're not saying relax, wait for somebody else. Somebody else is going to fix it. We are the somebodies. We are saying the exact opposite. People won because people worked. Public participation is absolutely important. and that, institutions are only as strong as the people are willing to defend them, repair them, pressure, fund, or actually use them. That is the lesson. And I've said this before, democracy is not self-cleaning. It's not. Somebody has to pick up the mop, right? And that mop, that proverbial mop is a meeting, a lawsuit, a budget amendment, a teenager helping their elder check their registration, right? Or the elder telling the teenager what suppression used to look like when it had on a different outfit back in the day. This is intergenerational work, y'all. That 15-year-old I keep talking about and that 85-year-old that I'm talking about both have a job in this work. And while the 15-year-old may not be able to vote yet, they can become a source. They can print, they can teach, they can text, they can translate, they can organize, they can even ask the question. Okay? And don't count our elders out. They may not be trying to stand outside all day with a clipboard, but they can write, they can call, they can testify, they can remember what was, and they can vote with the receipts of the witnessing of what was. We need both. This is a relay. And to put it plainly, and shout out to me, making myself proud. I just did a season of coaching middle school track. The season is over, but I'm so proud of myself for that. But I feel like democracy, it's not just like a system, it is a relay. Like the baton just keeps getting passed. Like it is what it is. So with this, right, what can states do when the federal government gets stuck, gets stalled, and things like certified doers before Monday? Do not try to do it all. I'll say this. Do not try to do all the things. Do not try to do all the stuff and things. My ask is that you actually pick one. Whether you want to make your power address card, right? Because remember, power has an address. That means write down your local election office, local governing body, make that little card, member of Congress, senator, put it on the fridge, put it somewhere, put it in your phone as a note, put it in the family group chat because we can get them doing stuff and things, right? Do that. Number 2, before Monday due, ask one politician one measurable question. One politician, one politician. You can even use you can say what specific action will you support before the 2026 midterms to protect voting rights, workers, election administration, language access, disability access, public trust. Please respond in writing. I'm telling you, do not underscore. Please respond in writing. Do not ask them to support democracy, because what the fuck does that even look like, right? Ask them what they are doing with their power. And if I'm your legislator, I don't give a, ask me too. Ask me what I'm doing with my power. That is the level of accountability with which we need. Before Monday due, number 3, I'm saying pick one. I'm not saying all. I'm almost done here. Read one source, not a string start. So we're going to pick one source, find one source document and read it, whether it's a Supreme Court opinion summary, whether it's the Virginia Voting Rights Acts of Virginia Voting Rights Act Code section. You can look at it and read it. Send a letter to Delegate Marcia Price saying thank you. If you look up who's my legislator, you can find all of our emails. Tell her thank you. That woman led that stuff. Read that code section. Tell her your favorite part. The Brennan Center voting laws roundup. They do that. The Harvard Youth Poll, if you're interested in what the youth are saying, because remember I said that their lack of energy, it's a signal. It's not that we're not going to shuck our fingers at them. This is a signal. Or it was the University of California, San Diego Trust Survey. And then take that, pick that one source and then explain one thing you learned to one person in regular plain language, right? Get them out of the news, get them out of the academia, bring it down and explain it to them in regular language. And if you can't explain it to somebody, You might not understand it yet, and that's fine. So we can work with that. The last two things here before I closed is the other two go do's, which is for Monday due. Before Monday due number 4 is recruit a person to our book club, please. We're reading Grab Them by the Ear. EAR stands for Educate, Activate, Recruit, Repeat. Recruit one person before Monday. I'm not saying 50. I'm just asking one person. It could be a cousin, a neighbor, a church member, coworker, teenager, a seasoned saint. Okay. The link to the book is free, and you can give a donation. Tell them, like, we're not reading this to feel smarter. We're reading this to act better, right? Like, we're not trying to be smart. We're just trying to do better. That is the thing, because I need y'all to graduate to this next phase of work that we need to do before 2026 is over, right? Like, there's a next phase of work, but you got to grab them by the ear so that we can take that step forward. The last thing I want you to do, if you so choose, you've got 5 options, excuse me. Send gratitude and ask for needs, right? Your local election office, send them a short note. Gratitude for your work. What should residents know before the next election? What support do you need from the public or elected officials? Because I can tell you they want their healthcare fixed, right? Their reimbursements fixed. I did a bill on that. It's like, but ask them what they need from the support from the public and or elected officials. That's it. Do not underestimate that. People doing public work need to know that the public actually sees them, right? Trust is a part of this infrastructure too. Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to bring this home, go to the comments, and then I'm going to run my child some lunch for her track meet. Okay. So the question of the moment, how do I want to put this? The question of the moment is not, let me not say what it's not, because I was going to say, will democracy survive? That's not the question. That question is kind of passive. It feels kind of passive for me. The question of this moment right now is, what are we building? What are we defending, funding, learning, teaching, and quite frankly, doing so democracy has a place to stand, right? It's the kids going to school. He's upset. What are we doing? What are we doing to defend, to fund, to learn, to teach, and to do so that democracy has somewhere to stand? I'll tell you this. We cannot borrow hope from Washington. We cannot build all the hope that we need in a group chat. But we are going to use the group chat to build hope. We are going to use the registrar's office. We're going to use the state code. We're going to use public hearings. We're going to use our goddamn book club. And that 15-year-old and that 18, 80, 85-year-old sitting at the same table figuring out who they're going to call before Monday. We're going to use that to build hope. I firmly believe hope is a method, right? It's not just a mood. It's not just a vibe. Hope it's a method. It's not a plan, but it is a method, and it has homework. It's not just this. I think people think hope is this light, this candle, but it is actually a muscle that we have to train. And so this week, the assignment is very simple. We educate, advocate, celebrate, then hopefully find some places where we can legislate. We get that book. We learn how to educate, activate, recruit, and repeat before Monday. Because again, hope has homework. And I believe that certified doers do the work. Okay? Do the work. Fair enough? Fair enough? Fair enough. All right, let me get to these comments so I can get up out of here. VA, I love this. Shalette said, VA legislators rock. They do form coalitions. Yep. Amicus briefings. Get something. David said, fear is real. I was surprised at how many of my neighbors said, be careful in regards to my attempts to get in the city to help with issues on the block. A lot of people are afraid of their own city officials, afraid that they might reach out for help and nothing will happen, and then they will become a target. That is facts on facts. I love this. As Sidwell says, be an activist, not an alarmist. Yes, please. Can we do that? I think we can do that. I think we can do that. These are not big things that we're asking for. These are very small things. I love this, Sierra. So I'm on Instagram now before I rock out. Sierra Goodman says the lesson helps us understand there is strategy. Facts. The lesson should help you understand that there is strategy. I'm going back, seeing, making sure I'm getting everything. That is the valid point. Shira says, I have to jump off now, but I have a question. Is the constant, oh, she had to jump off already. Is it constitutional for corporations to blatantly influence our election? Other than that, everyday people have an amazing day. See what you do next. So I'm going to respond to her and say, yes, but I have a bill. I have a bill that I put in this past session. It did not see the light of day. It didn't get docketed. That would have allowed for Virginia to say, let me backtrack. Citizens United, if you're familiar with it, if you're not, I need you to get familiar with Citizens United. It pretty much says that corporations are people, and corporations as people can do all the things that people can do, like give in elections and all this good stuff. So, right, the interesting part is the 10th Amendment of the Constitution provides states with some sovereignty. While corporations can be people and considered at the federal government, we as a state can determine what people can and cannot do in our state. And so when you look at the powers of corporations, we can say, hey, all of these lists of powers that we've given you in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're just going to take this one away, and that's your right to contribute in elections or campaigns, right? We can take that right away, because we have that right. That's part of our 10th Amendment right to be able to do that as a state. We can grant them powers and we can take them away. So that bill was called the Corporate Power Reset Bill. I believe it was House Bill 1448 or 1442. I cannot remember. It never got docketed. I'm going to bring it back next year. And I need you all to support it. I need y'all to write the letters, do the things to say, Hawaii. I was just with the Hawaiian legislator this past weekend, congratulating them, actually 2 of them. They already passed something like this in Hawaii this past legislative session, which they just completed their legislative session recently. They're the first in the country to do it. Montana did a ballot measure that was successful to do this. We do have to find a way to get this ridiculous, crazy, stupid ass money out of politics, right? Thank you, Steph. It was House Bill 1447, not 48. But yeah, like, it is part of the problem. Some corporations become masters, essentially. And I've seen it. I've felt it. I've been pissed off by it. I've had to reject money. This is why I'd be like, I'm just such a broke ass candidate, because I don't be taking all of this. I mean, I will say I have some corporations that I take money from and some that I'm just absolutely not. But that's on me, because I got to start fundraising. So if you want to give something, go to my website and give a little bit. Lexi says, got to put some respect on our elders. They've been through this before. They've survived. Yeah, that is 1000% true. I do think that there's a level of really understanding where they're coming from, right? What they're thinking, whilst also, and I'm looking for something real quick, while also understanding that, hold on, Control F. I'm looking, while also holding in hands that that our youth are the warning light. And I'm going to say this again, they are the warning light for democracy, that because they feel like they have no agency, it doesn't make them lazy. Like, that doesn't mean they're lazy. That is looking at how they see the system and remembering that the young people are giving us feedback on how the system is or is not working for them. So I'm urging everybody, while we continue to respect our elders, that readout that the young folks are giving us, we need to treat it like a report, right? We need to listen to it and sort of understand why we got to move the way we need to move, and then support them in doing better. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay, I've been on here long enough, and I gotta roll. I love this. David Jane says, so please write your people, write your city councilmen. They aren't scary. You might find they can help you fix your years old problems that everyone said was unfixable. Amen, amen, amen. Many hands make light work, many hands. So thank you, Doers, for being here. Join the book club, contribute to my office so that we can keep doing this work. You can do that at our website, or you can go to my link tree that I put there. We need it. This work, we want to fund the work that works. And in order for good people to power to be good, more good people should have power. And that's you. All right. Toodaloo. Be kind to yourself. Until next time, Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, laced up legislator for the House of Delegates in 93rd District, honored to serve, where doers do, because doers get more done. Don't sue me, Home Depot. Take care.